Hello folks. Well, interesting it might be if we endeavour to better understand the difference between the man and the person. More specifically, what is the word person defined as? So if we're going back into old school and Gaius was saying the word person defined, Gaius says de juris divisione, the divisions of law. Immediately preceding his division of the law then follows de conditione hominum, meaning the condition or status of men. Person is a means of dividing up the different conditions of a man. In the Institutes de Jure Personarum precedes the expression all our civil law relates either to persons or to things or to actions. The words persona and persona did not have the meaning in the Roman which attaches to homo, the individual, or a man in the English. It had peculiar reference to artificial beings and the condition or status of individuals. Okay, so if we bring that up into a more modern interpretation, the word person, in its primitive and natural sense, signifies the mask with which actors who play dramatic pieces in Rome and Greece covered their heads. Okay, so a person back in Rome and Greece was basically an actor, okay, who covered their heads. So if we go back 100 years, 150 years, hats were adorned, brought about by the new runners of the stock markets, which would be the House of Rothschild. So hats were encouraged to be adorned for those who worked in the city, and that went right down through all the cities, and all the Lord Fauntleroys would be wearing them to prove themselves worthy to operate with the House Rothschild, unbeknown to them that they were being encouraged to join an act. These pieces were played in public places, and afterwards in such vast amphitheatres that it was impossible for a man to make himself heard by all the spectators, and later by all judges. Recourse was had to art. The head of each actor was enveloped with a mask, the figure which represented the part he was to play, and it was so contrived that the opening for the emission of his voice made the clear sounds clearer and more resounding. Vox pronobat. When the name persona was given to the instrument or mask which facilitated the resounding of his legal voice, the name persona was afterwards applied to the part itself which the actor had undertaken to play, because the face of the mask was adopted to the age and character of him who was considered as speaking, and sometimes it was his own portrait. It is in this last sense of personage, or of the part which an individual plays, that the word persona is employed in jurisprudence, in opposition to the word man, or homo, which is how the Roman language described the man, homo sapien, etc. So man is an English term. When we speak of a person, we only consider the state of the man. So it's separate from the man. Okay, so this is what he's getting across. It's that this idea of person is a separation from a man. Okay, that's so important that people start to recognize that this system is set up in this way. There's man, there's person. there's decapitated man. So when we look at the doctrines coming out of the No-High platform, where the sentence of idolatry is decapitation, rather than that necessarily being a physical act, it could more than likely be a legal act in which you are lessened in your capacity, decapitated. In that sense, you would then probably become the slave. So that is another term that could be used for what is a legal move, but of course we'd all take it on board as a physical because we've had it plagiarised and plastered all over media, from the TV, as a format in which the Islamists or kafirs operate on behalf of the global intelligence arena. Currently under the title of British Empire, which is shifting over into the East. So it's important that people recognise that your standing is determined in relation to the idea of person, persona, etc. as a division or an explanation to a particular position of a man. So it's secondary. And this is what the parasite it deals with. It deals with all this extra that's accepted then by a man, and thus he enters into the act, the play with this. It is in the last sense of personage of the part of the individual players that the word persona is employed in jurisprudence, in opposition to the word man homo or homo. When we speak of a person, we only consider the state of the man. Okay? So that's what it's telling us. The part he plays in society, abstractly, without considering the individual. So it's you're encouraged to act contrary to who you are as a man. Okay, as a homo, not in the derogatory sense, but in the term also meaning man. And then the difference between those and the term person. So it's an act. And now you're being made to wear masks. What is it they're actually achieving with the mask? And how it would signify you to be an actor? Well, the Coronavirus Act is exactly that. It is the script of an act, for an act, that they want you to actually join and act within. Because when you do, you are then governed by the script writers, by the director, you know? You're being moved in a act, a drama. And of course, within this, we've got contracts going on all over the show. So you get tested, you've entered into a contract, you've become a patient of this pretend or fictitious National Health Trust. Okay? So they've got you tied into a trust as a patient. Who controls this trust? Who is benefiting from this trust? Yeah? What is the as it were, the deed of that trust? What does it say? What does it say it's going to do? What are its aims? You're not checking any of this because you don't understand. Through the privatisation of the health industry in this nation, and formed from the get-go in America, you're being shifted on the back of your already acting in a fiction under the legal person, specifically operating on a presumed certificate that presents a Seska V trust, which is a dead trust, or a format by which you are assumed lost at sea from the last reset of 1666, unless you produce life in the interaction. So the presumption is that you are dead as a legal person, and that's the birth certificate, as you know. But when you look at this movement and getting anybody trapped into the contracts with these trusts, it's really important that you understand what the trust is, what its agenda is, which will be stated in its deed of trust, its title, its meaning, what is it there for? Because there is where you'll find whether it's operating according to that deed or contrary. Who is actually executing the will of the trust? Who is the trustee or trustees, and who ultimately are the beneficiaries of this trust that you're being encouraged to act and then join by contract? Thus, you will have to act exactly according to the play that they've devised in order you serve this trust. You become basically an asset of the trust. Yeah, and you're in contract law. It's going to be rather difficult for you to move out of this kind of thing. And so, of course, now the mask is being employed, and many people are wearing it. I mean, it should become a part of your attire, it would appear to me. You know, when you're seeing people driving around in their own little car on their own with a mask on, one has to wonder what is going on in the mind of that fleabag, because I would suggest it certainly ain't functioning as a full shilling. Yeah. Lots of lights have been turned off in the cranium area of said masked driver of empty cars. So it is now becoming as normal to put a mask on as it would to adorn a jacket. And again, this is part of putting you into a category. You're way beyond man now. You've been so far into person. This is now a new category for you in this act that they're encouraging you to play and act within. And, you know, such as to be understood in these terms. But more importantly, you need to understand that you're becoming assets of, more than likely, private trusts. And of course, private trusts, so long as they're not in breach of their original deed, setting out what it is they intend to do, then there's not very much a court can do to interfere in that contract. Are you understanding what I'm saying there with that? So it's rather important that people just consider the way this is going, because the further you go into person, and of course we've gone through the digital dollar where everything is showing that they're creating a new legal entity. I mean, for instance, the AI could be classed as an instrument that's going to be operational for these trusts. And therefore, all those that have entered by contract, and because they're acting in this fake, fictitious script and act, they're thus going to become assets of those trusts. And you're going to have to, if you start into this act, you're going to have to see it through to its fruition. And let's start to look at the pandemic, reopening of these morgues, these Nightingale death camps. You've got all this that we witnessed in the first lockdown about to be launched again, but in a slightly different format than what it were originally claimed to be set up for. You've got United Nations troops just off the shore in Southern Ireland there, setting up base. Yeah. So you've got that going on. They've got £10,000 fines in the game now to keep you fixed in the act. Keep you dancing. You know, no consequences. This is an act called No Consequences. The Premier, starring everybody that's joined it. That's what it is. It's one of them. And the whole thesis of it is run into here and feel safe and secure. Nothing will touch you. But everything's touching you because they're removing the ability for any kind of interference between the trusts that you're operating under as assets and law. And it's getting quite serious that we need to understand it in these terms. And the mask is a big part of defining another category of the man. And of course, we're getting to the point now where you get into... They're going to have you tied in a legal position of a slave. So that means you've got no person. You've lost that even. So you've come off man into person, and then you've actually completely lost all rights to person. You can't contract. You've no right to contract anymore. You can't, you know, it's and this is all a legal game, a system. And then when you start to look at the biblical text, that's what this is about. That's what it's about. This that we're witnessing now. And of course, given the last 100 years, the eye's been taken off the ball in that respect. But this is the way the systems work. And everything that's been going on in this last 200 years has been to remove us off this system that gives us rights. But obviously you've got to understand where you are in the world in order to claim those rights, into this person and a slow degradation. And so they've now got you wearing masks. They're going to identify you in a different category to what you actually already are, which is a dead trust legal personage debt account, there to generate revenue to service the debt of your master. And of course, your main master is the UK Gov, a corporation, okay, a sole corporation, with a fiction, Queen Elizabeth II, as that sole proprietor of that corporation. And that's a fiction itself, because the oath was incorrect. There's no oath been upheld because it wasn't taken correctly, which is what the English Constitution is there to ensure. Because the oath is there, the coronation oath is strict in its, you have to uphold the customs and general laws that exist in England and uphold the Church of England, not change it into something else and just keep the name. That's all been achieved in this last reign of a fiction, the sole proprietor of HM government. So it's all fictions to control a population that have become fiction, that are involved in an act and thus subject to all government acts, because that is the script writer. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So you really have to start to see the mass as another degradation in this legal system that they've got everybody under, that's taken over the existing judiciary as a format, because the Admiralty law operates stealthily in all the civil and criminal courts, and it's operating in relation to you being that dead trust, that persona. Yeah, you've lost all your legal rights as your initial person under Rome and the canon and homo. I mean, you've jumped off man actually for that, but you can still invoke the Bible to give yourself the jurisdiction of man. And this is what they're removing. They're removing the biblical tradition to shift it into the Noahide system. And they're very big on decapitation, which could very well be symbolising legal decapitation. And if so, this mask is a serious move to get you to consent to that move. And I would then suggest the vaccine is going to be the method to make you want to stay there by basically zapping a big part of your spiritual and thought processes in order that you would become happy in this new role that you're going to be given as a slave. Yeah, also consider that in covering the face, they want you to communicate by the keyboard. And yet another move, slow move in you to this new act. So you're being trained as an actor, basically, as you go. That's what they're doing. And they want you moving further and further into the world of the internet. So that's the lockdowns to get you used to not playing out. They want you ordering everything online so that you don't need to leave your house. You can support yourself all as long as you're a good boy or girl and you got in your credits. Can you see what I'm saying? It's all about moving. So they want you off the speaking on the keyboard, the fingers. And the vaccination with the genome tech in it, coming out of MIT and CRISPR, two guys of which sit on the highest ranks of that organisation, directly connected to Jeffrey Epstein and the network. This genome agenda, I believe, is more serious than we're actually considering, because it's actually going to change your genetic structure, and it's hereditary. It passes on to your future generations. And I think they're going to give you some kind of lobotomy that's going to cut you off from a certain process of your system, whether that's brain function, nervous system, I don't know what it is. It could very well be a major effect on the pineal gland, in truth, because that is definitely a gland they've been attacking for such a long time. You know, with fluoride, with aspartame, your sweeteners, all your sweeteners in your thing. That's why they've gone sugar-free. It's all about attacking the pineal gland. And the sugar substitutes are the means to that effect. That's why they're doing it. That's why they've got you all on these sweeteners. And not only that, this make your body store fat cells. So you get fat, and it's highly addictive. So there's a major agenda against the pineal gland with the fluoride. You know, toothpaste, you couldn't have got a better method of transmission, and then encourage you to wash your teeth twice a day. Been very successful. And it's all about attacking your pineal gland. So I would suggest that first they have to get you to consent to lower again your status. And then they can medically intrude in order to make you sort of comfortable at that level, because you've lost the capacity to see the level you'd need to see to know that something's changed. So I would say just give that a little bit of thought on those parameters. Now, the document I'm looking at, which is bringing up these concepts, is Weiss's Concise Trustee Handbook, and it's a guide to the administration of an express trust under the common law, functioning under the general law merchant. And it's by Carlton Albert Weiss, and the second edition was in 2008. And it's a guide to the administration of an express trust under the common law. Now, this is important to understand if you want to understand what it is they're doing in relation to removing us off biblical tradition, because the common law and the laws on the trust are all based in common law, the land law. That's what it's all about. And that precious metals are classed as portable land. So gold, silver, you know, it's precious metals, because it's of the land and it can be moved around. So once you start to understand the foundation of that kind of talk, you're starting to understand how this banking system's operating, because you can see that then it's set up to undermine this system while giving your pets mean prizes and glossy things for you to jump onto and take you away from our heritage, basically, how our nation's operated for those thousands of years. So we're going to move forward with this. There's more data in here to play with to help you shift your mindset to understanding the difference between man and person. There's a lot of grammar in here that we can explore in the coming weeks. So with that, I will say, till the next time.